Hello, and welcome to the Performer's Guide, Pricing Yourself Like a Pro. My name is Kristen Railing, and today we will be discussing charitable donations. There comes a time in every performer's career where a charitable organization reaches out for free services. And this module is designed to educate both you and the client on what the charitable donation requirements actually are and how we can manage these requests. So we're going to specifically talk about which organizations are qualified, which ones are not qualified for charitable donations, how we handle the requests, and writing a charitable contribution letter so that we can make sure that we can actually keep record of all of these expenses. So what organizations are qualified for charitable donations? The organizations that are qualified for nonprofit status to receive charitable donations that can actually be tax write-offs for us are religious organizations, truly charitable organizations, educational, scientific, library, or any kind of work that prevents cruelty to either animal or children. And so specifically, it's churches, mosques, synagogues, and other temples and religious organizations. If you are religious and you're part of one of these communities, you could actually have a lot of work within this genre of organizations. And you can actually really build really great relationships where you give charitable discounted performances and can travel and kind of utilize them in your city. And so we can also give free and discounted performances to federal, state, and local governments only if the event is specifically for the public, for like a public park or some sort of charity benefit for the city where the donations go to the city. We can do charitable performances for these. Nonprofit schools and hospitals, we want to be really specific and make sure that if a school or a hospital reaches out to us, or even a library, that they are actually a nonprofit organization, because there are many for-profit businesses that may appear or try to falsely present themselves as a nonprofit to get free performances or heavily discounted performances. And we just really want to make sure that they're actually a nonprofit. Any kind of like Salvation Army, Red Cross, Goodwill, United Way, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. I've done a lot of performances for Girl Scout and Boy Scout troops, and you can really get a good clientele actually in that genre as well. War veterans. What better way to give back to the country than to give discounts to the war veterans that help fight for our freedom? And so if we get a request from a war veteran group, we want to give them discounts. So now we're going to go over unrecognized organizations. These are organizations that may appear to be recognized, but they're actually not. And so we just really want to do our due diligence to make sure that we're clear with our client. And so the IRS is very specific that no individuals qualify. So if you're not even a business, you're not a nonprofit organization, and just a person who has a passion project that they're trying to raise money for, that doesn't qualify for charitable contributions. That would be a tax write-off. No for-profit businesses qualify. regardless if you're a sole proprietor, business partnership, LLC, corporation. Like I said, a lot of times schools and other organizations might appear to be not for profit, but if they are for profit, then they don't qualify. There's a lot of other qualifications and specifications that might dictate whether or not an organization qualifies for charitable donations. And the IRS actually has a website where you can go and search for a tax exempt organization search tool. And it'll take you to a page that looks like this. And there's links there and you can click around and it'll literally have a list of every organization that qualifies for charitable contributions that would be a tax write-off. And if they're not on the list, they don't qualify and they should be expected to be paying full price. So how do we handle charitable contributions? A lot of times they come in and now we know all this information of who qualifies and who doesn't. And now we want to make sure that we handle the request properly so that at the end of the year when we're doing our taxes, we can actually utilize this and leverage it for tax write-offs so we can lower our expenses. You can choose to perform for free if you feel passionate about the organization, regardless if it's an individual or a for business or nonprofit, if that's what you feel like doing. But in the long run, if you continue to do that over a long period of time, you'll run into a deficit with your expenses. And so we really want to limit the amount of free performances that we give to organizations out of the goodness of our heart. And you kind of want to have an idea sort of in the beginning of the year. How many am I willing to perform? And just let the client know I can only offer this many amount a year or a month. And the rest of them I can only offer at a 50% discount at most in order for it to be a tax write-off for your expenses. And we want to remind the client that it's our time cost and our energy cost and our financial cost that we are giving to them in our donation. And only some of that can be returned. And we really want to leverage that with the client, that it would be great if they could at least return some of our financial costs, since time and energy can't really be returned. So you must have a record of everything that happens. Verbal agreements aren't going to be write-offs because you can't prove that if you were to get audited. And so we really want to make sure that, if it's cash, that we have a written receipt from the client or an invoice, checks, credits, electronic transfer, credit cards, anything like that. We want to make sure that we have a record of it in our income expense, in an invoice, in our bank, just in case we get audited. The best is a bank record, that's tried and true. And we just really want to make sure that the payment comes from the correct organization to the correct organization through the correct channels so that it actually is a tax write-off. You can also receive benefits in exchange for your services, such as merchandise, food, other services, maybe admission to events and the other perks that we discussed in the previous video. And if so, you want to keep record of those as well through email, through receipt, photos, whatever. We want to make sure that we keep track of what was exchanged, what the market value is for those, and calculating that out. And again, we really want to make sure that we're keeping receipts, even like if you have to go out to eat or something, all that kind of stuff adds up. So, okay, so now you received the request, you've decided that this is within your domain and aims of performing, and this is yes for you, and you would like to offer your services in a charitable way, how do we make sure that we're fully within the legal standards of the United States? And we need to have what's called a charitable acknowledgement letter, which is for anything that's above $250 or more. And so that means if you're providing a service that's $1,000 and you're offering it at 50% discount, then that exceeds $250. And so you would be required to also have a written contribution acknowledgement letter on the client's letterhead. So what do we put into this acknowledgement letter? We have to have the name of the organization. It needs to be on their letterhead. It has to have their formal tax exempt status statement and number. It has to have the details of the contribution. It would likely be included in the contract, including the amount received, any description of the gifts that they gave you, all the receipts, and the service value estimates of what you provided to them. And so they'll just do the math. And so you can't just jack up your prices for a nonprofit and drop them down, because if for some reason you were to be audited, they would look through your sort of averages and be like, wait, all of a sudden you charge $10,000 over here when normally you charge $1,000. And so we really just want to make sure that we're within honesty and integrity when we're doing the math with all of this, so that we're doing it correctly. And then if you do anything over $500, you need to do form 8283 as well. And if you do under 5,000, it's, a certain form A, and then over it's B. And so we really just want to be clear with the client that if we're to be expected to give our time, our finances, our energy, that we need to make sure that in return, they're giving us the letter that we need to write off, that they're allowing us to fill out this form and they're giving us the information that we need, and that they're clear that we can only give up to 50% unless we decide that it's within our standards to offer something lower. And so we don't want to allow a client to kind of guilt trip us into just offering services for free and acting as though that we are not charitable if we don't do that. We want to make sure that this is an ethical relationship with you and the client, and that the gift and the service is within ethical alignment of both you and your client. And so I hope this clarifies a little bit about the requirements for charitable donations and how we work with clients in that capacity. Once again, my name is Kristen Railing with the Performer's Guide. Thank you for watching.